DreamHack ASTRO Open is brought to you by ASTRO, Monster Energy, Corsair, Zowie, Intel, and Lenovo Legion.
Welcome back to the DreamHack ASTRO Open in Montreal. Things are getting just a little dicey down here for some of these teams facing elimination today. We have 4 best of 3s. We've now powered our way through 2 of those. Going into the later 2, we're going to be going into CLG versus Kinguin to kick it off. But before we get into that, let me just take a second to thank our sponsors in ASTRO, Monster Energy, Zowie, Corsair, Intel, and Lenovo Legion. My name is Stunna, and I am the desk host of this desk here at DreamHack ASTRO Open Montreal. Joined by these guys. What's up, fellas?
Not much.
Hopes and dreams. That's what's up.
That's what's up. Yeah, definitely. If you're CLG or Kinguin, your hopes and dreams better be up there past your meme game, because today is the day to have all of those things. They are facing elimination, provided they lose this game, and then the winner will move on. So a big game nonetheless. How are we feeling about it, guys?
I feel Kinguin being the slight favorites on paper on this one, especially considering yesterday's matchup between them and CLG. They faced a Mirage, and it was a pretty one-sided affair. Not much to say about it. James said it pretty well yesterday. CLG was just bad, you know, simply as it is.
Just bad.
So I think you have to favor Kinguin going into this one.
Bad. It's kind of like
agree with him.
Banger.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing, right?
No, not even close.
All right, well, you know what is close is the Group A results. We're going to load those up now and take a look at them and see how this storyline plays out. North Gale Force 16-14, the one's probably going to stick out to you there. A matchup really no one could have forecasted have gone the way it did. But now that we are well past that, we are on to Kinguin and CLG.
I mean, it looked, and when you look at the North Gale Force match, you almost, now after seeing them play CLG, you say, okay, that might have been a fluke.
Yeah.
Maybe Cobble is just their best map by far, but I still think it might have been a fluke, as harsh as that is to say.
Well, I want to take this time to invite all of you at home to join along in the conversation and in the vote on picking your favorite team to win by using !King or !CLG in chat to vote for the team which you think will win. We will show those results closer to the time of LO3. Actually, I don't believe that we LO3 anymore, do we? That's an old art.
I have no idea, actually.
That's an interesting one. I'll look into that.
I'm usually alt-tabbed until it's live.
Exactly.
Hey, it's live. Come back.
So I'll tab back in.
All right, well, let's take a look at the Kinguin lineup. We do see them setting down and setting up, or sitting down, setting up. Hyper. I mean, when we look at this lineup, though, who are some of the performers that stick out? I do believe Sparrow is definitely one of those.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Sparrow play one hell of a game yesterday, not only against CLG, but also against North. He was one of the catalysts behind that drive, getting it close against North. Rallen is a guy to look out for. He has a very unorthodox playstyle, I'd say. He's like a lurker sort of type, but still does everything within the team. And I feel there's a lot of players, like a lot of playmakers on this team. In that sense, Sparrow here on the screen, you know, Arcady on 118. That's pretty impressive for an AVP player. The big guy on this team, though, the most talented, though I would point out is Mihu, and he's a guy who does pretty much everything, and he's a great entry fragger, and his aim is just on point. We saw it in a 2-on-2 tournament, I believe it was, or 1-on-1 tournament a year ago, where he ended up winning against Shocks in an aim duel. You know, that says something about this guy's aim. He's still young, and the whole team is still young in that sense.
I think the interesting thing to note out is we interviewed Lord yesterday, and he said that you know, these guys are capable of being just explosive, doing stuff that's unorthodox, and it's very much a storyline there. Something you kind of have to do as a team in this game, I suppose. Yeah,
especially one that's not in the tier 1 area and trying to make your way up. You got to have players that are willing to take risks on land. That's a really big thing for up-and-coming teams.
Well, up-and-coming teams. One team that shouldn't be up-and-coming yet already there. Let's talk about Counter Logic Gaming, and I believe we have the resident himself, Hazed, who loves to note on it. So.
You know, they've played much better today, so I can't hate on them. They did get an easier match, I guess you could say. But Ethan has been basically the star for the team this tournament, performing basically every map except for the first one. And, you know, Finesse, ever since he's rejoined this team, has looked, I think, infinitely better. And his leading is, as Jacob pointed out on day one, is almost like an EU style. They play very slow, calm, collected, and they take their picks and they pick the team apart, and then they do something together. And you saw them do that against Galeforce, and it was amazing.
Take their picks, draw out that utility, and try to capitalize on the mistakes of the enemy, which, you know, albeit is the proper way to play Counter-Strike. Now, in case you're just joining us, the reason that CLG are in the position that they're in is because they did drop Mirage yesterday, 16-4 to Kinguin. So the likelihood of us seeing Mirage in this, highly unlikely. But if we're going to look at some of these results real quick, looking like the chat's kind of favoring CLG.
I think that's kind of strange, actually. I mean, I want CLG to win because I'm biased as hell, but I mean, I think Kinguin's the better team.
They've shown to be the better team thus far in the tournament. You know, you saw Kinguin yesterday. They won convincingly against CLG, and they played up against North. You know, that's pretty impressive. So nothing tells me right now that CLG would be able to claim this one.
Well, we do have the map vetoes loading in right now, so we're going to find out where this best of 3 is going to land these two teams. And again, an elimination matchup, so a lot on the line here for two teams that ultimately are looking to make a statement, are looking to kind of prove themselves here at this event as a team to look out for going into the later part of this year. We're going to see Nuke banned by CLG and Cash from Kinguin right away. Is this expected?
Yeah, I'd say so. I mean, CLG doesn't play Nuke, and Cash is obviously in CLG's wheelhouse. They don't mind playing it. I would be surprised if Mirage is played, but it's kind of like a swing map, I think, because Kinguin played Mirage twice yesterday. So they do CLG does have a lot of info on Mirage if they want to go back and watch both those demos. So it could be something that they might do, but if I were them, I'd probably just ban it out.
You also have you always have the talks, like when you won on a map once, you know, in a tournament, and you face the same team again the second time on potentially the same map. It's way easier for the losing team to go in and change something, you know, and change up stuff. Whereas Kinguin will just think to himself, okay, we won 16-4 yesterday. We don't have to change anything. We just have to do the same thing, you know. Whereas CLG will come in with a new mindset, and they know they have to do something completely new and something completely different. So I think that's a favor pointing towards CLG now that Kinguin ended up picking Mirage.
And it is interesting to know, too, because you did say they played it a second time, and that second time was against North, where they lost 16-11. So it wasn't something where they probably held any tricks in their bag, so to say, going forward. So, yes, you're exactly right. And CLG would have a lot of material to really go over and kind of use it against Kinguin here.
I think this might have been actually a trap by CLG by not picking Mirage and leaving it open. They're saying they'll pick Mirage. We'll just study the North game and our game. We'll see what they do, and they'll pick it, and then we get our best map. So we get 2 maps that we're comfortable on and should be able to close it out in 2. I think that's their mindset.
Well, another thing to talk about here is the AWP usage on either side of it. We've seen the double op come out from CLG, and then just over on the Kinguin side of things, with Sparrow picking it up. When he's on fire, he's also a force to be reckoned with. Can we expect a sort of the same sort of storyline going into this matchup?
I think so. We have to see Kusta play well now. If they want to claim this best of 3 against Kinguin, we have to see Kusta go up against Sparrow and be just as good, if not better. So I'd expect him to step up. Yesterday in the game, he was completely absent. He was the worst rated player, and then he didn't get to do anything. So it kind of is like his rematch right now. He has to show up, and he has to give Sparrow a real fight. Otherwise, I think they're going to struggle.
Well, some of y'all are struggling with your predictions, and I think it's time we talk about that.
Well, look, I'm struggling because I have so much pride in North America. I want them to win.
Look, man, you know what? I'm gonna sympathize with you. I kind of feel the same way, and I also feel that CLG probably got a fire lit underneath them, and I'm gonna have to also go with the North American pick myself this time around. So I'm gonna pick CLG. What? Oh my dude! 2-1. 2-1.
I want to pick CLG, but I think I have to go Kinguin. I think. It's tough because I think it might be a 2-0 CLG just because of the map veto, but I could see it being 2-1 Kinguin. I think it's 2-0 CLG or 2-1 Kinguin. I'll go with 2-1 Kinguin.
Going all bases.
Listen,
yeah,
we're allowing one answer here.
I know. I'm giving you the Kinguin one. All right, 2-1 Kinguin.
Okay. You picked Your fate, not mine.
I think it's going to be close as well. I think Kinguin is the better team right now, and it seems like CLG for a long time was trending upwards, especially in these DreamHack tournaments, but this one haven't been too impressive for them online as well. I know they used you as a stand-in in the New York qualifier, but it didn't look solid at all. So
It wasn't.
It wasn't. You can testify to that. So I think Kinguin are hungry. You know, this is one of the bigger tournaments for Kinguin as well. You know, so they know they got to show up here, and this is a tournament for them to prove that they are a decent European team. So I think Kinguin are ready for this, and I think it's going to be a 2-0 Kinguin.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about testifying by looking at the results from the viewers at home who have been voting on Twitch chat for the duration of our little segment here, and see what you guys are feeling. And it's looking a little bit closer there. That's a little bit closer than we saw a second ago. 55-45 split in favor of CLG. Are they crazy for thinking that, guys?
I don't think they're crazy. I think maybe is a little bit Kinguin favored this match, but I think the results you're seeing, you remember this morning, the Gale Force votes, okay?
Yeah.
I think more North Americans just woke up or something, so I'm not surprised to see CLG winning in the poll, but I don't think that's realistic of their chances.
Well, I'd say the most real ones just pulled out, actually. But the commentators that I want to give it to are Sadokist and Scrawny,
Calling me fake?
Our resident Canadians, man. Listen, no one's calling you fake, but how you doing?
We're the only Canadians here, so that's about as real as it gets.
Where's your maple syrup?
Oh, it's coming. Don't you worry.
It's
a
fake
matter of
then.
time.
If you don't have it, it's fake. I'm sorry.
All right, we'll see.
What do we think about this matchup, fellas?
I mean, I can't help but feel like Kinguin have convinced me with their performance yesterday on Mirage, and while I don't really have anything to go off of as far as Kinguin's train game, I feel like it's going to be a close series. I'm expecting a 2-1, but overpass to me is a complete question mark, so I have it up in the air.
I just want to say that Hayes made fun of me while I'm wearing a Canadian tuxedo, and he looks like a homeless man in a dress shirt, so therefore, I'm going Kinguin over
Homeless?
CLG.
Man.
What?
Well, that got out.
You're a handsome homeless guy. I might give you $1. I don't normally give out, but I might consider it for you.
Is it because of the beard?
I'd give you a
It's
toonie.
just really shaggy, you know.
I think that one escalated a little quickly, but more
I used to like
escalation
him.
would be the knife round
we
that
can
is
be friends.
underway and done with. So I'm going to give it over to you guys right now.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I do think Kinguin was the better team yesterday. I talked a little bit to Ryu while I was getting my makeup on to make me look half human. And I have to say Ryu was a little bit disappointed yesterday with how they played at Mirage. And I mentioned mid specifically to him. He said, yeah, they played scared.
Yeah.
This morning when they played against Gale Force, he said, I didn't really coach. I told him I knew what they do. It's not my problem. It's yours. You have to figure it out. You have to frag. And that's what they did. So maybe keep it simple, stupid. Kiss is the better option for CLG. If they can try and do that against Kinguin, that might be all right. My cable's in front of me. I'm a rookie. You're supposed to be the pro here, Scrawny. Teach me how to do things.
I mean, you told me this was your fun event, so I was just letting you do whatever you wanted.
Okay. All right. It's fine. Just throw me under the bus for that one. Look, I think you have to give credit as well to Kinguin yesterday for the amount of map control they were able to take on Mirage. They were very, very good, specifically Rawlin at breaking in the back lines, sneaking behind CLG, finding integral kills even when they were a man down to open the map back up for them and work as a unit, if you will, based on information, which seems to be one thing in this tournament, in this event, that even Complexity, who have now departed, struggled with, was getting enough information to make the right calls, the right rotations at the right time. So credit to Kinguin for being able to ascertain that information on the T side and take advantage and exploit teams for being lackluster in that capacity.
Yeah, very proactive was the T side of Kinguin yesterday. So, I mean, I'm excited to see if they can do that again on train, because I expect it when we move on to that second map, no matter what happens here in the first.
Don't forget that if you like to be interactive and like prizes and all of the good stuff, you can be good and go to sliver.tv. Watch the game there and be involved in lots of giveaways and all kinds of fun stuff. It's a little more fun than staying in Twitch chat where all you get is Kappa, or if Henry were here, you might get some Kappa prides.
I'm wearing a pink shirt, so there could be some of those regardless.
I like pink. It's a nice color. Real men wear pink. Flashes go to B. Cutler. Already blinded up temporarily, has to back off. Ethan instead, though, is there to support. Cutler still, though, through the smoke, does find a headshot as they continue to pursue. It's Mihu gets the shot instead, but Ethan still in the back line, still watching toward yellow, is able to snap back. Good time to Molotov, keeps Ricky out of the picture. Buys more time for Kinguin, who fight forward. Despite being a man down, they'll slowly approach from the CTs, and there's only one kit. That's on Kusta. And he, at this point, is just working in from Z Connector as Ethan finds a frag over the top. This should go their way. Spiro not going to be able to do much. It's too soon, especially with the kit. The smoke going down on the bomb. Retake successful. I say that. Hang on.
He has gotten himself one frag, but the man who's on the defuse, had the cover of the smoke and the cover from his teammates. Really successful retake there from CLG. I would credit it mostly to Ethan being able to actually keep himself alive to the backside of that oil tankard. So you can see how Kinguin actually get aggressive on that bomb site. They push forward, they try to take control past the trains themselves, but Ethan staying back is able to curb that push. He's able to keep them within that mid zone, and then when the rest of his teammates arrive, they just completely overwhelm them. Of course, we see that one last man, Sparrow, to the top side of the site, and had he had a Molotov, then suddenly he becomes more of a threat. But the smoke kit, it was all there for CLG, and it's that which nets them the opening pistol. So obviously an immediate investment into the guns, rifles, and a couple of SMGs to go with it, while Kinguin, well, they want that early buy. We saw them employ it yesterday on Mirage, getting it early on in the T side and winning that third round due to it. So they've got that fresh in mind. The single deagle of Rollin could maybe get some kills here, but no utility whatsoever. I mean, they're not even going to be able to flash into a bomb site once they decide to pull the trigger. I'd say their best bet, group up towards the B site, try to catch someone off guard, and if CLG give them the space for a plant, well, that's an extra 800 in the basket.
Ethan sits to wait with the M4. No need to get aggressive on the peak. An often thought position that you would find a pistol overwhelming and a headshot against you, but instead he jumps for the information. It works out, catches them as they fall in. Water never even touches the ground, goes straight into the bucket owned by an M4, and Ethan able to walk back up is well positioned. I was questioning how much information he might get if he timed that wrong, but it actually worked out quite well for Ethan in that spot. So 2-0 now for CLG, convincing fashion. One kill, the only one that not on the M4, was from Kusta on the MP9, which gives him the money baby, as Henry G would say.
Speaking of money, no bomb plant here for Kinguin in the second round. Doesn't get them the full set of utility for anyone here. I mean, even Rollin, unfortunately for him, mitigated down to the Galil, but that's still going to be a potential wall of smokes, and actually an early wall. We see Kinguin throwing some nades over the half, and now Kusta pushing up into the ladder in an attempt to control this. Finesse even over towards the box halls. He wants to take a fight, but nobody's actually there. Kinguin, having thrown those smokes and now flashing their way down into the ladder, have found that 5v4. But Cutler's Molotov could force him back upwards, and if he chooses to, he could actually take that control himself. But instead, he plays it passive, falls back to the site, and will take cover behind these smokes as Rikke is now blocked off, and Kinguin start pushing in.
5 in the front. Cutler, Finesse on the bomb train itself. Back off because they can't see through the smoke just yet, but no smoke towards Sam, which does mean some information and a push from Finesse as Spiro gets him back. However, Rikke has to sit and hold and then walk in from A-main. Timing is everything in this. Again, the bomb planted early buy based on the early plant means utility is still the favorite from CLG, and therefore there is a kit in play in the hands of Ethan. Good position for Spiro, but good awareness that they know, in fact, that he is there. As Cutler flashes Ethan out of position. Smoke goes down. That gives him the angle, but not the timing. Low HP. Cutler has to be so careful. Lost the initial exchange, if you will, because it put him so low he couldn't ever battle Spiro. And it goes 2-1. Kinguin battle back early. And in doing so, despite having a decent amount of utility built up in the last round, it limits them severely on the CLG side in round 4. Yeah, they're going to have to put it all on the line, and immediately we've got an opportunity here for Kinguin to get some early success on the T side of Train. They'd love it. Obviously, we saw Ethan try to throw that smoke grenade closer towards E-Box, which actually would have allowed him to take a bit more cover there and force Sparrow to peek wider, but it bounces off the side of the door. And while it still ensures his exit, giving him safety then, might have come back to cost him. Finesse towards the backside. Rikke is up close. Nice dink, opening kill, and an immediate fallback from CLG. They had 3 players pushed up into B. They wanted that 5v4. They took it by force, and now they're just going to reel backwards. Set up a more passive play and try to hang on. Great idea considering they have such little utility. Outside, Ethan pushed up, has to get some support. Kusta gets closer, therefore. Still no information gathered. Cutler's able to rotate quickly. Should FNS be able to spot anyone? It's typical to solo B. Top train. Cutler realizes they haven't seen anything toward A, not even any utility disposed toward that position, so anticipates B incorrectly. So flash in, FNS high above, only gets temporarily blinded, but misses shots. You've got to hit headshots from that angle. Surely as FNS goes down, it's Cutler left to his own devices and therefore has to concede a bomb plant, wait for the rotations. And Rollin doing what Rollin should. Smoke down, has to get forward. All you have to do is cut off the CTs early. Takes advantage of the smoke, slips in. Ethan spots it late, but nothing they can do, and Rollin doesn't even have to engage. His presence is enough to hold off the CTs in this angle.
Especially as he re-smokes that. So now they're all wondering, is he still there? And the answer is no. He falls all the way back towards the top. And Ricky is able to get another kill. So back into the 3v3, no utility, barring Cutler's flash, but Sparrow hits another headshot. Kusta's down for the count. And while the HP is low, the hopes are high. Kinguin reeling backwards from the site leaves CLG to save. And that's going to be a tie game already. Kinguin able to not only entry past Finesse, but then also push up with Rollin. That was a big play by him, and while he doesn't take down anybody barring that one kill, it's enough to ensure the round here in the pocket of Kinguin.
No, that's perfect. That's so good from Rollin. All he has to do is understand that his presence isn't enough, and like I say, it distracts one player, he gets a single kill. Even smarter that he rotates around. Okay, fair enough, it puts him back in the play. He could have even just set on A and walked back in Z Connector. At that point, didn't matter, but all he wanted to do was stay alive. He's been having a great tournament. In my eyes, yesterday, he was the best player on Mirage against CLG. Did a fantastic job of taking over map control. We already mentioned that in the pregame. This time, it's Kinguin again in control. The 2 guns for CLG will post themselves. 1 toward Ivy, the 2nd on the A site. Good luck, Kusta, with the USP and no armor.
Yeah, chances slim. Immediately, Kinguin going to go back into what has been working, pushing the majority of their players off of the ramp, leaving one guy to the top side. That's Sparrow to fire off, but Mihu finds the frag. At this point, neither of those 2 M4s are actually in this fray, so they could decide to save if need be. But one has now been dropped as Ricky, off of the other, is able to find a frag. So something here to work with for CLG, but obviously a round that Kinguin should have never lost, and so they don't.
Take the guns again. So the M4 is carried over. AK picked up. Good enough. It's Rollin that went down, but 3-2 and AWP. It's going to be a factor. Should they bring it out? Should they elect to do so? It'll be Ricky that can have enough money to afford it.
All things considered, this is actually a decent round from CLG. The only thing that's happened here is they've gained an additional AK.
Actually, super important though, but Ricky's the one that can't afford the AWP and already has armor. He's the only one that still has armor carried over, so he could, if he wanted to, drop the op. And I think, yeah, he's going to do it. So if he didn't have armor, that would have been actually substantial because that wouldn't have been possible. He would have had to buy the armor. They would have had to go rifles. This way he gets a gun for Kusta and keeps the AK. So just by fate, they get one player that has armor, and it happens to be the player that has the high amount of money. Now it would be perfect if Kusta is able to capitalize with the op for all of the reasons mentioned.
It's all going to come down to that. As all of a sudden, Kinguin decide to just refocus. We haven't seen much Ivy play from them thus far. And this round, they've actually decided to push a player there. Hyper with a Molotov tries to create the distraction inside of the A site. Sparrow's ready to push in, and off of the flashbang he does, but Kusta stops him then and there. And he actually finds another. Mao's removed, and the Molotov's going to give him space to play. He's hoping that someone rounds that red train, but it's Rollin on Ivy to find another headshot and at least give Kinguin something to work with. The single-man advantage is all that CLG have left, but Kusta's got something to say, and as does Rollin, again, with another kill. And it's 3v2 back on the table.
Decent start in the round from Kusta. The op saved, or rather I shouldn't say saved, but the armor saved, therefore allowing it to be bought. Has swayed it all 3 kills, and no plant because of it. Ethan's positioned very well at Pop Dog because he can pop out. Hyper has to be so careful on where he tries to plant. Exactly that. Ethan times it perfectly. Nothing Rollin could do. He didn't have position far enough forward on yellow to spot toward Pop Dog. Yes, he can see the bomb, but with 28 seconds, he can't see any opponents until Cutler gives himself up. Information sure, but still a 1 versus 2.
Now, he knows that Ethan was on ladder side, so he can actually plant short.
Okay, so there's 2 options. He's going to go safe plant and try and hold to commit, which means he has to play out a 1v2 late. The other option was he tapped and forced out a peek from Ethan. But I'm not even sure they would have bought it because they seem like they're sitting far enough back. They want to play this out to time. They want to force him to make the effort with the bomb, not force one-on-ones against them. So Rollin has to go the hard way. Can confront Kusta before Ethan gets in the sight. Down goes the op. Now he's got the one-on-ones he desires, and he has the bomb to work with as the angle, but Ethan's better as he jumps high and clutches back the last 2 kills.
Thank goodness for Ethan. What an excellent ace attempt there from Rollin. I mean, we see him come in from Ivy, get those 2 opening headshots, the only 2 first kills for Kinguin. Gives cover as the bomb should have gone down, and nearly makes that 1v3. See some massive individual plays so far on Train this weekend. That would have been one for the highlight reel. Still is. Great headshots. Reading Kusta like a book. Of course, he knows that Ethan's coming in from ladder side, or so he assumes correctly. And he reads into Kusta on the peak. So, costly round versus CLG. Not going to allow for them to stabilize those wobbly economic legs. But at least they've got themselves back into the gun rounds. They've got themselves the minimum. Kits and nades are in this buy. And Kinguin still no op. They're actually going to elect to move all 5 players over towards the B site early on. We've seen some stellar executions where they push past those trains, they take that forward positioning, and right now with the setup from CLG, the furthest back player would be Cutler. So fast rotation off the table. Ethan and Cutler will be tested, and they're going to have to hold this unless CLG can get into position, but the execution comes first.
Ethan's ready for it. Drops the bomb as well. Forward side of spools. It protects him from upper, which means they can set the crossfire, which he reads well. Knowing that he had Hyper immediately above and Cutler had transitioned away under the wall, it means he did not have the angle, but he does go down, he does fall. It's Rollin holding off and found. Ricky on the flank. No entrance this time for Kinguin, and CLG looks much more assertive on Train, much more aware. It is a map which lends itself to choke points and utility on the CT side. Fair enough. Unlike Mirage, where mid is so open and you have to be aggressive, but they're at least rotating correctly.
That was one thing I was going to fear, was that they would, stay complacent towards that A site and not arrive in time to help.
This will be a test of wits, though, for them. This will show how much of a team game they want to play right now, because going against their first anti-eco situation where there's a force buy of pistols, they have to play a range game. They have to play smart, and if they get caught off in any of these kills early and give up guns, that's when they'll get tested, because we know Kinguin's fast enough, and we know that they can exploit map control quite quickly.
Which makes this position from Finesse quite scary. Of course, it does make sense trying to curb the ladder, but now fall off. Do not risk that AK. So easily it could have just been sucked back up the ladder, thrown amongst the ranks of Kinguin and given to somebody full health. Of course, they do still have that wall of smoke. So we've seen Kinguin try to go for that early ladder control, and since it doesn't work out, they can now just rely on what their second game plan was. Cover a bomb site, blanket it, and then just try to get that plant. The extra cash would be great. Everybody already sitting between 2 and 3K. CLG are playing patient. Discipline.
They've already ascertained the information based on the first exchange that pistols are in the hands of Kinguin. It's a tough one to manage as well, because they were in a forced buy situation where Kinguin could have elected to bring up UMPs. A lot of teams actually shying away from that since the patch, which is one thing that's good to see. But AKs were not out of reach. Instead, they want to play long game. They have the information, like I say, on the CLG side. They realize, they adapt, they go passive, they play the angles, and Ethan's able to take down Hyper. Keep in mind, there's no armor either, so they're really trying to bring out an op setup on the CT side next round. Unfortunately, in playing the long game, they haven't found, although Spiro changes that now, they haven't found many kills, just the one, to damage CLG's economy at all. So the next round still, although it's great for them to have those weapons, has pressure on it in the fact that they've got to break down CLG over the course of 2 rounds instead of 1.
CLG definitely getting themselves back in a stable state. Nice full buy on both sides. So solid gun round. Obviously Kinguin not wanting to let CLG run away with this momentum. CT side of Train can be so difficult to break. You definitely don't want Kusta and Enrique to start getting that double op setup. That's a whole new game, and one that CLG currently haven't had to rely on. Nice flashbang, but Mihu rips them flesh from bone as Kusta finds a pick. Sparrow taken off of the entry. Kinguin, having left the bomb back, are going to have to retrieve this, and Cutler! Oh, Cutler! He locks down Ivy, swinging it back to the advantage of CLG as the fights continue on. They've gotten themselves within the trains, but Kinguin have just pumped the brakes and stopped, slowed down until Kusta finds another. So Rollin 1v3 yet again. But first he needs his bomb.
That's easy enough and drop for picks, so he'll grab it. All 3 players from CLG going to stick together. Ethan close enough, but they're going to be so far away, they're going to concede yet another plant, which going into what will be a 4th round loss bonus should Rollin not clutch this back. I'm not going to rule him out. With a bomb plant, they're set for another buy on the Kinguin side, and any kill that Rollin gets, therefore, is costly. He's not gone for the plant because he doesn't trust the fact that he's alone. And and not to be blamed. In a 3-man situation, it's fine if it was a 1 versus 2 and a site was left open, but in a 3-man situation, that's tough. He's now actually going to go even smarter. Rollin is actually playing with his mind all weekend. Ethan reads it. The smoke was not yet bloomed and bouncing still toward this staircase, or rather the ramp. Therefore, he spotted where it was thrown from. If not, if he'd thrown out the fake smoke, Ethan would have never considered that he was behind him.
Mihu getting a little ambitious with that push, caught off guard by Cutler, who was still up close. They thought the moment they got that opening headshot that they could just barrel their way around, try and find the backside of CLG. We alluded to the flanks and their success yesterday between these two teams, and that's what they had hoped for. But instead, their reward, another half-buy. Kinguin to the CZs and Kevlar, with, again, enough grenades to play off of. But last time, it went for a late B execute with those smokes. They were able to throw one down ramp, one to the top side of upper, tried to use that in order to create some space, but very successful holds from CLG so far. At least over on that B side. A bit more wiggle room has been created by Kinguin on A. We've actually seen a much more passive CLG on these anti-ecos, playing back from within the site, which makes absolute sense. Even this time around, Finesse, as opposed to playing the bottom of ladder, just sits immediately on site.
Finesse waits. Cross set, but can't find through the smoke where the bomb goes down. Ricky found by Hyper, good aggressive push, and Hyper immediately picks up the WP, turns it on to Cutler. The one gun picked up, and it's all the kills going their way as FNS realizes late that there's 2 players inside of Sandwich and only reacts to 1. Ethan caught by Mihu. This has fallen apart for CLG. As Kusta, one of the 2 ops, is going to try and save it. Play again the long game. So surprisingly, Kinguin doesn't elect to go for the full buy into it and yet still pull off the round. CLG have plenty of money left over. Ricky does not. He's the only one that does not, but the rest of them are fine. Would he be able to drop over for him? But they want to try and extend this money cushion toward 2 rounds, and Kusta won't even go for exit kills at this point in time. AWP seems more valuable to him. It brings the lead back to just 2 rounds, but it basically puts us in a situation where it's break point for either team.
That's one of those awkward rounds whereby, if, of course, you play passive and you don't give up those opening kills in the faces of the pistols, you want to keep that distance and not, be oh so close. Well, sure enough, Kinguin are going to take that space and try to run with it. Wall of Smokes allows for their players to all get into position, so by the time that we find Hyper actually opening up with the CZ and then grabbing the op for the second frag, CLG are left scrambling. And within that bomb site, when they're frantically looking for trade frags, it's then that Kinguin can re-peek from corners and continue to catch them off guard. A saving grace is that round here for Kinguin. As you said, they opt not to go into the buy, which they could have. They really definitely could have. But instead they wanted a nice, healthy purchase. And they've definitely got one now. But a man pinned inside of the corner of T-Con. Kusta fully flashed on Ivy. So the Opera has been mitigated, and Rollin wants to fight, tries to force it, but it's Kusta with the kill. Mihu removed. And immediately Kusta repositions. He goes all the way back through Old Bomb, safely to the opposite side of Ivy. So now, if Kinguin had been watching down, they would have never seen him go to the opposite side. Smart and safe play. Obviously, CLG realizing what they just gave away in the last. They need to stop the bleeding. Smoke grenades from CLG begin to dwindle as Cutler finds another kill. Kusta patiently misses his opportunity, but it's 2 quick frags from CLG, leaving it all on Mouse. He's fully lit to 2 health. No chance in hell.
And I don't know, Hell's a pretty unfortunate place. There's some weird things that can happen there. I'd say in Hell you might have a chance.
Yeah.
2 HP. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like you might. The Devil's a weird guy. He plays tricks. Look what he did to Adam.
You know him well.
Yeah, actually I do. Maybe I am him. 7-4. CLG take up the lead again. Thanks to the, although it was an eco round, thanks to the reset coming back in, but saving all those weapons, they do actually still force out 1 more round, so they're not completely done on it just yet. No AWP, mind you, on train, which can be a factor for the terrorist side, but you have 5 smokes. We've not yet seen a set piece. With 2 players pressuring toward Ivy and 3 toward ladder, this could be an ace split with an overwhelming presence toward Kusta. And he's set and ready. No run boost, no utility spent until the final flash comes in, so Kusta will be forced off the angle, but they'll have information there's at least 1 player toward Ivy. And yes, Ethan goes aggressive to get the same information toward B, but not with an AWP. M4, so rather than peek aggressively, he's holding an angle to make them commit.
Kusa tries to re-guess towards Ivy. I really like the way that Cutler's been trying to support him here. Of course, both of them on ops this time around. That triple op setup from CLG.
One very minor detail, though, is they threw the smoke deep inside of Ivy, but didn't take advantage of it. So even though they threw the smoke to force Kusa to hold the position and force Cutler to rotate, they didn't actually exploit that by using any motion toward B or any further utility to confuse the CTs. So yes, okay, they bought a fraction in time, which they created an opening toward the front of the site, but too slow to act toward to Pop Dog, excuse me. So Mihu and Mouse could be the entry instead. And as you say, Cutler playing back toward the tracks in CT. He's ready for it. Smokes to go out on A instead. Wall down, but bomb goes B. It's a fake. Spear's going to try and sell it by going in A main. That holds Ricky. This buys time. FNS, a full wall on A. Can't move. Instead, Ethan has to get kills to shut down the round that he's done too with bomb and buys time. But is that enough? Because they have to rotate back in. And the bomb's already recovered by Mouse, who will plant safe side B. And Me, who is on that side, they had no idea he was towards CT. He spotted up the third towards Z connector. Ricky's got a better shot, and they'll pull the round back just barely.
Well done by CLG, but what a great effort there by Mihu. Obviously, again, we see Ethan playing up close to that train, and while he catches the T's off guard, who had assumed the bomb site was clear, well, it allows for Mihu to push up the opposite side. You see right here, he's committed to the ramp, which is great. He gets the bomb dropped, buys ample opportunity for his teammates to rotate in, but again, forfeits over the control that Kinguin then used to almost swing it back. Had that 2v2 gone the other way, Kinguin would be in a great spot, but instead, they're pressed against the ropes, and so they take the pause. Good chance to talk things over. I mean, this half's not too far gone. It is the T side of Train. They're already 4 rounds in, par for the course, if they can get a couple more. I'm just glad that we're having a much less lopsided game as opposed to yesterday between these two teams. Obviously, revenge is sweet.
Yeah, no, this is much, much better from CLG. Again, very different style of map in that you don't need to be aggressive to take over mid-control. And Kinguin, without being able to take control of those situations and exploit the defense and really force them back inside of their own sites, have to fight for it, and they're not actually winning the duels as easily, and they've lost economy as well, which means CLG, not only have they won the half, but they should handily take a lead, swamping over to their terrorist side. We'll see if they have any options. This time we do get a run boost. It's Mouse they throw across. He's got CZ. But FNS has AK. Which is really going to be fine in this situation with no armor against him. Mihu.
We had been getting accustomed to watching Kusta and Cutler try to double down on Ivy, but Kusta's now a little bit more committed towards the site. The smoke grenades and the utility usage, he has been drawn over, so him and Finesse will have to pinch this off. Great flashbang does keep Kinguin at bay, but meanwhile, Rollin and Sparrow are able to push into the site, so the backside of the Opper is in threat. But through the wall, he takes the first until Kinguin swing it back. Cutler, having arrived at the site, still locks things down, but Hyper's got an avenue towards the B site if he had chosen so. Instead, he takes a kill, and he actually decides to disengage as he loses his teammate. It's 1v2, he's lit. But he's got the bomb and at least a chance to plant. And we've already seen what Rollin could do. This time, it's Hyper.
26 HP. Time on his side. Getting lower, but time in the fact that the rotations will take longer than it would for him to plant. Ethan's starting to consider that it's not on A. They've already explored all facets. So open plant, inside sight. Tanker could be a possible option for him. And it will be. The narrow alleyway gives him peak control. The problem is he still anticipates that they're going to be rotating in from Z and back. Turns straight forward for Ethan. It's about as wide of the plant he could have gone. The reason he has to slip down Tanker on low HP is if he can get past that choke point, if he can get toward the hitch, it doesn't matter which direction they come from, he's going to have at least an angle to either Z connector, to lower, to upper, and be able to watch the bomb. So he had to go that direction silently. Unfortunately, gets caught out a little bit too early by Ethan.
Another round, however, where Kinguin are able to make good use of only a couple of pistols. So whenever it comes to gun rounds, Kinguin have just had ample opportunity to buy all the bells and whistles. Again, full nades on everyone barring Sparrow. And they've had some really nice fakes as well, just using that blanket of smokes on the A site, sometimes committing behind it with their guns, other times changing direction quickly. We saw on their T side of Mirage the ability to change up their pacing, change up their direction, and that was great. But as you've alluded to, there's no mid-control for them to exploit. There's no piece of the map that they've really called their own. Instead, clashing all across it.
It's a tough thing to do. Train is very smoke dependent and always has been for the T side. Their best round, in my opinion, in terms of utilizing them was the fake toward B, and even that fell apart for them late. Intentionally drop bomb, they're going to play picks once more. Hyper does have a chance this time, little does he know, to actually start working in from upper. With no one that was watching it for the time being, he could have snuck in on Ricky quite easily. Instead, though, back toward A. Mihu's backed off Ivy. Cutler still sits at Sandwich. Important position for the CTs is Sandwich and Quad, because you have to be able to rotate off that. You need to be able to shut them down. If they get the perimeters of the 3 trains on A, that's when they control peaks and they control position.
I'd like to accredit lots of movement here from CLG, constantly trying to rotate around mid-round, but it actually cost them because Finesse was alone inside of the ladder and Cutler's on his. Only gets one as Rollins able to trade. Now 2 players stuck inside Z. Ethan doesn't want to boost. Instead, he takes a shot to the head as Hyper hits it through the smoke, and Kusta looks to creep through it.
Smart play from Hyper, good hold. But you can see immediately, as soon as Rollin took over Sandwich, they could go for the plant, because even if they want to wrap to deny, Rollin has the option to walk out from Hell and spot back towards Z connector, and he's still going to hold as well. So he's all the way above. First off, the smoke towards Z and toward the backtrack. So save call CLG, double up. That's the reason why both those guns up and money is dwindled low. Ethan's the only one that really has much to work with. So Kinguin's best chance to make this 9-6 comes in the fact that they don't have much money. If they can get one of the 2 ops down, even though they don't have money to chase, it'd be massively beneficial. They're going to take the former option and sit with guns in their hands instead. I'd like to see CLG go aggressive at this point. They haven't done it all half, and that's fine. They haven't needed to. If they were losing and hadn't gone aggressive, I might give them a knock for that. But the fact that they can actually sit back and still find success is one thing. Then now that they're in a situation where they've saved 2 ops and they don't have the amount of utility they would have liked to have going into this round, 1 FAMAS, not kits on everyone. Decent smokes, fair enough. I want to see them go unorthodox, catch them off. Last round, do it. Throw a Hail Mary in. You're at 9-5. Worst case, you go 9-6, but get the early pick and fall back.
We've seen them try that towards B, maybe 1 round in total, but it's an immediate 2 quick kills on that A site. Kusta with another. Cutler doubling down, leaving it all on Sparrow. So a fast, what should be final round for CLG. However, because it's so quick, Sparrow has ample opportunity to play patient. And he's actually got the op, so at a distance, maybe finds another pick, maybe makes CLG sweat.
Ricky did get aggressive. It all worked out for Kusta. He was positioned perfectly when they tried to go fast on the Kinguin side, but Ricky got so much information they could afford to support with 4 players in A. Bomb down, no movement required for CLG. They've got everywhere covered off. FNS plays backtracks. He can hold off Ivy, and instead it's Cutler that gets Spiro. 10-5 CLG. Much, much better today than yesterday. Yesterday, they did not look like a CLG that nearly made it through the minor qualifiers toward the major, that lost to Immortals who made the finals in the major. They looked nothing of that sort. They looked completely lost. Much better today.
Definitely something worth praising, but then again, they've got a T side ahead of them. A lot of those rounds did come down to 2v2 situations in the after plant, so even Kinguin had found some success. But I like to think that just not having to play aggressively for the most part of that half, CLG were able to just kind of, stick within their style, which is a much more patient play. Set up, try to minimize those calculated risks. They did like to throw them every once in a while, but didn't ever really have to. Kinguin unable to truly test that defense.
We'll see what CLG comes up with. Won the pistol in the previous half. Got them off to a great start. Win both pistols in a 10-5 half game should be pretty much all there is for it. Still some work to do, but losing in that fashion, if they were able to achieve this, would be pretty spectacular. Hyper, thought he was going to go and peek the corner to get information, but seems to have an inkling they're already there, rightfully so, and backs off because he doesn't yet have the support in position, so he has to play defensively inside of the site, where CLG, pretty standard for most teams, going to go toward B on the pistol. Deagle at range for Ricky. He's being shot toward. Wants the headshot toward the spool.
Smoke grenades up and over. CLG want the execution. Ricky could go big here, but Rollins actually got a line of sight over top of the train yard. Ethan takes his head. Hyper looks to get aggressive, wants to stop the plant. It's going to be tried to commit. Kusta spins, and he's able to get it in, so the CTs now have to make this retake happen, but Ethan and Finesse both next to the smokes as Ethan gets inside of Z and then falls further back. It's Mihu to give chase, and so the site begins to crumble, but Ethan, he wants a fight, and he gets one. But it costs him his life as Ricky's super lit, but at the distance hits the deke. There's a man on the plant, though. He needs to peel him off, and he's not going to find it. It's Kinguin with the second pistol.
Important one at that as well in the defuse. Smart read, Hyper to back off, really plays for the retake, knows that likely they're going to go for the inside of the site pretty quickly with the smokes down. And B7 bot for Spiro. The rest all will stick on rifles, so with the plant, expect a second round buy in the same fashion Kinguin brought to the table in the first half.
Just the 2 deegs here for CLG. We saw Kinguin use that first round buy to net them a third round victory with early guns. And their counterparts now look to do the same, but it's over on Ivy that Mihu makes first contact. So CLG doing a good job of at least playing the extremities of the map. You can see how Malzino's attention has been pulled this way. But with that kill going the way of Kinguin, now they have to push. The trigger's been pulled, and Hyper, well, he hits 2 headshots, goes to the top side where CLGs will find some frags. But the fast flank behind them, that could seal it unless Ethan slows him down. He does, but the plant still goes in. So just enough time bought here for CLG to bolster their cash. Extra funds for the third round buy.
Yeah, that's all they needed. A plant down in the second straight round is massive for them. This will allow so much more options than even Kinguin brought in round 3. In fact, op available to them immediately should they elect to do so. Kusa's on 52. Cutler could drop and still have armor. They're going to stick with the rifles instead, so faster play perhaps, as they've got smokes on everyone. Kits up on all but Mihu, who goes to a rifle. Spiro's ready on an op. And Spiro has a decent spawn to get to Z connector to hold off A main, so if CLG wanted to go fast wall and force the issue, he's positioned perfectly, but won't. They'll slow it, they'll sit back, and smartly so. Bomb drop for Pix, and to try and get an execution at least toward Ivy to push back Mihu.
Heavy A-site defense early on. No information being given away by CLG. Not a single place on the map. The chip damage from the frag grenade, well, that's responded by a smoke from Kinguin. While 2 frags have been thrown in, indicating more than 1 player's presence, CLG actually walk away from this. They like to go to that late B-site execution. They'll use the deep smokes to block off Zed connector and then also the ramp, kind of layering it in order to find entry.
Early damage on Mihu is sufficient. Surprisingly, they're not going to put some more support. Yeah, okay, so Spiro's starting to rotate that direction instead. But over to B, smokes down, CLG. They've had success getting bomb plants there in the last 2 rounds. They're going to try it again. They haven't got the smokes down early enough. Hyper's late with a Molotov in return. And the M4 was nearly positioned to catch the cross. Instead, it's a good read and a horrible throw from Malzino. So early save call, Kinguin. They're already going to back off. CLG will find the 3rd round, and they'll make this 11-7. It's a utility battle at this point in time based on if 3 guns are saved or not.
The wall of smokes that CLG generally tend to use on the B bomb site is actually one that can condition CT sides to commit 2 players to the B site early on. Again, they throw a smoke grenade down the ramp to block off vision. They'll generally throw a smoke grenade on the top side as well so that the player can get outside of the door but not offer himself up to the deep side of the site. And then again, a 3rd smoke grenade that lands inside of that connector then forces Kinguin to have players inside of the bomb site. And if you have those 2 players that are constantly playing B, differently than that early presence that we kind of saw from CLG, prying over on Ivy, maybe putting a player towards T-Con. Suddenly they'll switch things up on a whim, and they'll head back to the A site where they can generally find the defense with a maximum of 3. And even then, they'll usually use that one late Ivy lurker to throw a smoke from T-spawn, blocking off the Z connector from the opposite side. So they hope to maybe box players inside of that connector, keep Kinguin, away from either bomb site, and force them into the numbers disadvantage. We'll see if they decide to employ it, as this time early on, they head out towards T-Con and the upside of B, but Sparrow gets there first, and Hyper's here to support.
Good position from Hyper with this smoke. This catches off teams far too often. That far forward as well. Pin glitch. Hear anyone throw utility? He'll pounce immediately to the top of Pop Dog. Thankfully, Ricky's got attention toward it. Not only that, look at this. Even better. Bait Sparrow in. Spots Hyper. Great read. He has to get away. Therefore, they cannot pull the red carpet towards Sparrow. Even still, it's a tough position to take back. Flash timing was exceptional to force Rollin off Pop Dog when they cross, but at the time, Smoke will counter off the position. Smokes will go down wall fashion. Mao's above them and ready for it. Fires 2. Before they get anywhere near the site, it's Rollin on top of the train. One position that goes down, and that starts to open things back up, but appropriate and apt rotation from Mihu. Timed well, takes down FNS. This should not even go CLG's way at this point. Cut off so cleanly and so quickly to take back the perimeter of the site. There's no chance they get back the bomb unless Kusta's able to slip in undetected. That's going to be hard with Mihu's position. That's why Hell and Quad are so important to the outer site.
Ricky is able to find Hyper at least, but on 19 HP, Sparrow takes him down easily at that. A bit of a catch-22, actually, that they find that player pushed up into the brown halls, because had they not fired off and had Ricky allowed for him to play close like that, then suddenly when they execute into the A site, the likelihood of having only 3 players there is increased. However, because he gets tagged up slightly, he actually goes and plays in Z, where he can easily then work with his teammates on the A site. So, devil's in the details. CLG forced that situation, but now they look to force themselves into the A site already, trying to entry in. It's Mihu dropping Ethan first, and Kusta's heavily hit. So the 3 remaining rifles is what they'll have to work with. Boost over the ticket, inside connector as Cutler takes 2 headshots, big play, and Hyper can still swing it back, however. He does hear that plant, and Kusta's up close, where he then gets removed by Rollin, who starts his charge in. Cutler to the spawn, spotted by Sparrow, and dropped accordingly so. 3v2 to the favor of the Poles.
Rollin needed to respond sooner. He's going to get forced off. I'm surprised he went for that direction. Top train. If he gets caught off going back towards Z, and a rotation for an AWP on a retake. Round over, but now he stands a chance. Boost up for the M4 instead of the AWP. Good spot from Rollin, better read from Ricky, knowing they had to go above the smoke. Had the information one was at least in that direction, and the boost, that confirms both are. So they know exactly where Spiro's coming from. Ticking faster and faster. He has a kit, has a smoke, but doesn't have the confidence on an AWP to even attempt it. He'll fall away. Try and keep the money intact. Just barely on the Kinguin side. This would be a forced situation. CLG is going to go 10-8. You're getting in the later stages of the game. It's going to be a second round bonus with an AWP save. Buy up what you can around it, because you know the money is still not amazing or established on the CLG side.
Fortunately for Kinguin, that's also an immediate reset, so this force-in will put everything on the line. Luckily for them, as you just said, CLG haven't had a good chance to experience that growth. So with them rebuying their grenades, it takes them down quite heavily. Very important round here. Either CLG are going to get dangerously close to victory lane, or Kinguin stop it in its tracks and fight for double digits. They definitely want to fight for upper halls. Sparrow getting close off this AWP. There's 3 players on the other side of that wall. Now Ricky drops Hyper first. Sparrow walks into his death as Kusta takes him, and we now watch Kinguin have to fall back with those 3 pistols standing. Ethan leads the charge, and Rollin up close is able to take 2, nearly 3. But Cutler stops it there as Maus trades at a distance, and back to the 2v2. Bomb in the open. The eyes of Kinguin, oh so close. So CLG decide to just regroup themselves. Mihu, he gets in. He's actually going to take the fight. Finesse gets the best of him. And that leaves Mouse to clutch. He's hot on their heels as he comes up ladder. They're both still here. One is watching, and the spray is just not going to do it. So CLG, well, they give up a lot considering it was near only pistols. But Kinguin deciding not to invest. That's ambitious. They're going to forfeit the 13th round to the board of CLG. Take the tack. Excuse me. This belongs to CLG.
Yeah. It's a call on the win because they're trying to think the economy game here. They're trying to, if they're going to buy in, if they lose this because of how close the last few rounds have been contested, they lose the momentum entirely. So this is a smart call. This is something we saw a lot at Malmo, actually, comparatively to before. Even though the timeout rules were roughly similar, we didn't quite get it. And perhaps the coaching, getting back into it, the coaches are calling the timeouts because they can actually ask for them in freeze time now, whereas previously the players had to call it to even get the coach's input. Could be something to consider for the change, but we're seeing a lot more teams take them even though they've won rounds to consider economic advantage and basically game style based on that. So it's really good to see. We talked to actually in good depth, if you want to go back and watch some of the segments in Malmo about it, because Cloud9 did it quite a few times, SK did it 3 or 4 times, NIP did it once or twice. It was actually quite common. But it's Mihu, Spiro, and Maus on the outer site. No one watching Ivy early on. Hyper and Rolling getting more aggressive to play off each other at B, so giving up Ivy, it's always a risk, but if no one goes that direction, this is a very good stance because they know that CLG's been trying to run smokes on the A site. Unfortunate part is that no one's watched A main on the alley side, and Kusta is right below Spiro. Couldn't even see it below the model of his own gun. Smoke off toward Mihu, but again, they are the forward stance. That's what Kusta's not expecting. That's why giving up Ivy, if they don't go that direction, works, because you can pounce. If anyone walks down Ivy earlier at that point, which they should have waited, in my opinion, for Cutler, it pulls Mihu back or leaves him in the open for a trade. They will get there in the end, but it's a 2 versus 2, and they know exactly where Cutler is with no sense of being overwhelmed. They can sit to wait, and they can afford to do so because they have to go back and grab the bomb on the CLG side as well.
That fortunate timing, though, for Cutler has allowed for him to just take control of the A site, or at least he thinks so. Wary of the bottom of ladder, seeing as CLG had just focused on both T-Con and Ivy. They have no clue what happened elsewhere. And right now, it looks like Hyper might start to round things back on the Ivy side. There is a man boosted high, and they haven't checked this. He hasn't seen them either. Now they do. Cutler realizing as he turns back and creating a massive opening towards the B site. Patient play pays off. But Hyper could still do this. The Molotov will slow him down. And he has no kit, so he wants to be quick. Could decide to charge through that smoke if need be, but knowing he runs the risk, will decide to save. And there we go.
And this is they know he wants to save as well. Yeah, okay, they can chase in a forge to take him down, but there's no point. They stand to gain more by giving up the one single gun because they've done the math. That's why they called the timeout. They know there's not going to be a good force around it. Give them the one gun. Now, what they don't know is that Hyper's upgraded that to the AWP. That's something that could be more substantial and more menacing. But with a 3rd straight round, smaller loss bonus, this is where CLG takes control of the game. 14 rounds, 2 to go. This is exactly where they called the timeout, so they were very smart to let that gun go.
Despite Kinguin's conservative buys in those last few rounds, well, it leaves them worse for wear. Deciding not to invest in this one, but instead to go big in the next. They'll need 7 consecutive, unless Hyper can make that one op work. He's going to go over towards Ivy. He's got Mihu up close, but not spotting anybody to the backside. It's actually Sparrow to trade out over on B. Mao's tempted to go charging up the ladder, but instead his teammates rotate over. And of course, with him being on ladder control right now, Kinguin, well, they're just prepared for this push. And having given up that Ivy, all of a sudden someone can start to round behind them. There's a gap for Kinguin, a gap that CLG could work with, but Ethan finding a man advantage, well, that makes things look good. And if he commits to the B site, it could call all the rotators over, whereby bomb will hit A.
Hyper needs to consider, if he can't get a kill right now against Ethan. In fact, this is going to be an engagement. So if he goes down, this could be a problem because they want to play for overtime. They want to be able to save the gun. Good find from Rollin. Takes Ethan, save the op. But if it's a 3 versus 3 next kill, could shape the round. They're going to go back for it. Hyper gets in position, misses, just tags him through the edge of the wall, goes down to FNS. And it's map point CLG at this point. There's no chance Rollin has. Without armor, without a kit, aim punch a factor, he would have to hit all 3 headshots. Oh, okay, fair enough. Got lucky with the pillar, sprays down, has the pre-fire. He's got a chance suddenly when he should not. He missed the opening shot. Cutler's only got 13 HP. Give Rollin a shout because he's got an angle, and Rollin's got a shot as well. And he's got the time. 4 kills. Finally, Rollin gets one of the clutches to work. It's been 4 attempts, and he'll get 14-9 and a game on our hands that should have been almost over.
That would have been OT secured for CLG. The moment you see that first headshot miss, you think it's done for, but Finesse steps into it. The next man up close gives himself away. And Cutler, well, he offers up his kneecaps just as he crosses. Doesn't even have to tap the bomb. I thought maybe he'd be able to draw out that peak, but instead it's offered first. Obviously, CLG still have this substantial opportunity. But they have no op to counter that of the double setup here from Kinguin. We're probably feeling revitalized after that clutch. Regardless, CLG start to charge in, and the first op pans out as Ethan's dropped from the front lines. Mao's next to the bomb site. Well, he wants a target, but CLG have pumped the brakes.
Kusta slipping an Ivy. It's found by Spiro. If he had gotten in, taking even 1 kill, that would have opened up so much space for FNS to continue on. Still manages to wrap hell, but it's traded immediately back as they lose Ricky. FNS can't continue forward, changes the angle. Smart read, smart play. Still 2 to find at Ivy, but he's left to his own devices inside of the site, and this takes money out of the hands of CLG. The kill against Kusta shaped the round considerably because it took so much space away from CLG's attack. Though, surprisingly, space that FNS is going to get. Oh, just barely. I was going to say get back if he gets through Z connector.
Another one of those moments where, despite the numbers advantage there in the hands of Kinguin, the low HP made you think just maybe Finesse could have pulled a round back for CLG, but that's not the case. It's both teams to the double digits, still the double op for the defense, and what should be an easy round. CLG desperate to find the bomb plant. They've got that single flashbang. You'd expect for them to just execute off it, but Sparrow stops them before they get to position. He re-peeks for another. Finesse up close, and Kusta the next as Hyper drops the bomb. It is only Ricky. It is only his Glock, and he's got an entire team ahead. So, as expected, Kinguin convert this point with ease. And they'll now close that gap to only 4. To overtime, that is.
Wow, you say that, it's possibly a win.
Yep.
Let's keep in mind, CLG has yet to get round 15, so this is a full pressure situation. They're going to buy back in with 5 AK-47s. And CLG needs to go back to either a set piece or a timed play, where in which they tandemize their push towards A. They tried to do it with Kusta. Again, he goes down. FNS gets ready to throw smokes from the dumpster. The rest go to the halls. Single Molotov in play for Ricky. If he wanted to, he could try and flush out bottom of Pop Dog and force CTs back with a better fake, but instead they're going to set to be ready to try and take over B. And the Molotov's used to clear the corner instead. Hyper's going to have heard that, by the way, so that's why the rotation came in from Rollin.
Good on him. Posts up with the op just as Ricky is about to round the corner. And we've seen him bank smokes off the wall before. He's going to use it yet again. Buys him a little bit of space as CLG start to charge down that ramp. The Molotov blocks it off, and Ethan hits the headshot, but Hyper on the site then removed. 5v3 to the favor of CLG. Up close is this offense, and the bomb's gone down already. Kinguin could just go for the save, but Mihu wants at least one more, and he takes it. Every time CLG are able to afford that control of ramp, they just charge their way closer to the train yard. And that poor Opper gets caught off guard.
So overwhelming works. They'll keep 4 AKs up. This now will be overtime point. So you can say that now, Scrawny,
Yep.
if you'd like.
It is overtime point.
Oh, I meant the 4 round. Yeah, that's fair. That works. That works as well. We'll work on that.
Okay.
But it is going to be all guns kept up post-plant positioning. Post-plant situation, that is. And it's Spiro and Rollin that have to rebuy into it. And we might have a round where there is 0 AW... I take it back. Look at that, Spiro. You brought it out late. I was going to say 0 AWPs in it, which actually would favor the terrorists on train, because the op is so substantial in shutting them down. Spiro wants to play close quarters op on B ramp. Hyper is going to put a lot of responsibility in his hands if he backs off and rotates even a little bit. If he's not there to support, a missed shot for Spiro, and it's going to be all about transitioning back behind the first train and catching them on cross. Meanwhile, Ricky's already established presence toward the lane, and Rollin wants closer. He's going to be... This is a bit of a problem for Rollin. If he goes in to find Kusta, it's traded back immediately by Ricky.
Who could get blocked off, but he uses the fire to buy some time so that he can get up close. Now he is full committed here, and he doesn't have a teammate to help. Realizes the risk, flashes and smokes it, or thinks about it.
Ricky's still the factor in this situation right now, because Rollin and Mauser set for a cross for A main entry and Pop Dog. Mihu's busy at Ivy with 2 players coming in, and Ricky's already gone by Mauser's position, so he could actually pop out. They've gotten the kill on Mihu. Ricky's got all the control he needs. This is going to be a full wrap CLG this round. There's no way. With that positioning, just from having the stance inside of the site, there was nothing that Kinguin could have done. It's now down to Spiro, 1 versus 5. Very, very good for Ricky to slip in early. It gave the team the confidence to work, even if they lost the battle at Ivy's. Ivy's, I say in plural because there was 2 of them there, as FNS closes out the game. There's nothing they could have done to respond, because immediately Ricky swings out for the trade, goes through quad, which he'd already Molotov'd, already cleared. That was the best play they had on A main all game, and it comes to win him at 16-11.
Perfect time to pull it out. Great stuff there. I want to honestly praise Ethan in this moment. I think that he had himself an incredible game, and yet again goes to show that you know, there is this younger NA talent out there. He had curved off, I'd say, since, like, to me, his biggest run at like the Star Ladder land is when I really kind of put him on the map. And this time, I think it just goes to prove he's an incredible B-site train player, because not only is he able to just lock down the pushes of his opponents on the CT side, but I think any good player, when they're able to hold down a bomb site on the defense, knows how to entry it on the offense. And he had a good read when he's able to get underneath the Opper in that one of those last rounds.
That is true. There was a good interview as well from Stiko online recently from Mouse Sports. You have to know how to play multiple positions for that exact reason. Even if you don't mirror the same position when you're on the terrorist side to that which you defend on the CT side, you have to have an understanding of at least the thought process that the player you're going against is. Exactly. You have to know not just the person individually. For example, if it's nothing and he's going to get aggressive if you flash, or if he's going to try and get in your face early before utility, but how it's actually played situationally. So if they've got a man advantage, is he going to get aggressive at all? Is he going to be playing the secondary angle or the first? How does he play off his teammate? There's so much you have to read into in that sense, and that's why I honestly think teams should practice playing opposite positions of what they play in actual matches from time to time, strictly to just have the thought in your mind. So it's a good point to have. On that, we'll take a break, because CLG have at least struck back against Kinguin, who slaughtered them yesterday on Mirage. They're up 1 map at a best of 3. We'll be back after a break.